In a world more complex than it seemed, Diana was not an ordinary girl who lived next door. She was born into the aristocracy, with deep connections to the royal family. Her father, John Spencer, was a prominent member of the nobility. Before diving into a tumultuous drama, it is crucial to understand her origins and her life before her widespread adulation. Princess of the people, Diana may have won the affection of the global population, but it seems she did not evoke the same response from those in her immediate circle. Following the recent revelation from Prince Harry, we are sure that something suspicious is happening within the confines of the palace. What exactly did Prince Harry articulate this time? Could this serve as the confirmation we have been waiting for so long? Prince Harry, Diana's son, now 42 years old, has revealed a secret he never intended to share. He is surprised with his statements, finally unveiling the authentic account of his mother's death. Specifically, he has presented evidence that she was in the vehicle, that she suffered injuries, and that the same paparazzi who pursued her in the tunnel were the ones who captured images of her, gravely injured in the back seat of the car. This new evidence has surfaced in relation to Diana's death, putting King Charles and Camilla in a tight spot during the New Year crisis with Princess Anne. The breach of royal tradition due to Camilla's avid pursuit of power within Prince William's new monarchy is highlighted by an informant. Amidst Prince William's magnificent design, Prince Harry has disclosed information that was never meant to be revealed about his mother, Princess Diana. His claims have surprised us, as he has finally unveiled the authentic account of his mother's death. In an environment of opulence, Diana was born in Sandringham, the private residence of the Queen. Her mother, Frances Rowe, came from a lineage prominent aristocrat, while her father was Ethiel Spencer. Can you imagine it? Diana's childhood playground was located within the royal estate. Although most of us played in our backyards or at the park, this was an atypical upbringing. She grew up with the Queen's children, Princes Edward and Andrew, engaging in typical childhood play activities. However, despite the apparent opulence, the reality behind the scenes was not so spectacular. Her parents' marriage was not the idealized connection others imagined. Externally, it might have seemed they had it all: wealth, prestige, and aristocratic affiliations. But privately, various challenges persisted. Tragically, Diana's older brother, John, died shortly after birth, destabilizing their relationship. The loss of a child is inconceivable, leaving deep emotional scars on the parents. Despite her youth, Diana was not immune to the resulting stress. At the time of Diana's birth, the relationship between the Fishers and her parents was expanding. The situation worsened further with the birth of her younger brother, Charles. Instead of uniting the family, it seemed to drive them further apart. Diana witnessed her family disintegrate when her parents finally separated when she was 7 years old. Her mother left, and the reasons were not what others often assumed. Infidelity was a factor, but it does not encompass the entire narrative. Following a contentious legal dispute, her father gained custody of the children, resulting in a complete transformation of Diana's life as she had known it. Afterward, she was primarily raised by nannies and sent to boarding school, a world far from her home and the ongoing chaos. Now let's talk about boarding school. One would assume that, given her upbringing, Diana would excel academically. Not quite. Studies did not really appeal to her. She struggled scholastically and showed little enthusiasm for them. To study. Instead, she focused much more on other activities. In 1976, Diana's father remarried. His new wife, Rainey, Countess of Dartmouth, did not receive a warm welcome from Diana and her siblings. In fact, they openly despised her. The prevailing tension was evident, as they gave her the derogatory nickname of Acid Rain. In a moment of anger, Diana supposedly almost pushed Rainey down the stairs after a dispute. However, the conflicts persisted. Just a few years later, in 1978, Diana's father died from a cerebral hemorrhage. The already fragile family completely fell apart. At this point, it became clear that Diana would not follow the conventional path prescribed for her. She lacked academic aptitude compared to her sisters and, after failing her O-levels twice, left school at the age of 16. She decided to forge her own path rather than rely on her family's wealth and connections. She moved to London and took on various temporary jobs. Diana, the future Princess of Wales, worked as a nanny, did cleaning tasks, and taught dance lessons to support herself financially. The narrative diverges from the expectations associated with her upbringing, which is precisely what made Diana so relatable. She refused to let her aristocratic lineage dictate her identity and was resolved to forge her own path. However, just as she believed she had freed herself from her family's expectations, Prince Charles entered her life. Initially, Diana viewed Charles with indifference, as her older sister, Sarah, had previously had a brief romantic relationship with him. She found him rather boring. As a beautiful sister, Diana kept her distance and refrained from interfering in Sarah's romance. Nevertheless, after many days, circumstances changed, the relationship between Charles and Sarah weakened, and suddenly, Charles began to show more interest in Diana. At this point, Diana was 19 years old, while Charles was much older, and, in short, looking to settle down. A weekend trip to Balmoral was enough for the connection to develop. They spent more time together, and, before Diana knew it, Charles had proposed. Despite approaching a royal wedding, Diana was not convinced that this was the right path for her. She had serious reservations, primarily related to another woman, Camilla Parker Bowles. Charles and Camilla had a bond that went beyond mere friendship, something Diana noticed. Instinctively, she understood that she did not possess all of Charles's affection. Despite her reservations, Diana proceeded with the wedding. At 20 years old, she walked down the aisle before a global audience, aware that something was not right. She smiled for the cameras, said her vows, and ascended to the title of Princess of Wales. Unknown to her, this was just the beginning of the impending chaos. Diana entered a troubled marriage in which her husband was caught up with another woman from the start. The warning signs were present. What should have been a moment for Diana and Charles to enjoy their honeymoon turned into one of Diana's loneliest periods. Newly married, Diana tried to connect with her husband but instead found emotional barriers. Charles was not truly committed, he remained somewhat anchored in the past, especially with Camilla Parker Bowles. Diana quickly experienced the consequences of this emotional abandonment. She struggled with bulimia, a maladaptive coping mechanism that arose from the stress and isolation she experienced in her marriage. Charles provided little help, he dismissed her concerns about Camilla, exacerbating Diana's feeling of isolation. When Diana announced her pregnancy with her first child on October 1, 1981, a spark of optimism emerged. This could be a catalyst that would reunite them. The anticipation of parenthood did not have a transformative effect on the Fishers' relationship. In fact, the situation did not improve for them. Diana's pregnancy also turned out to be challenging. She suffered from severe morning sickness and her mental condition deteriorated. In a moment of absolute desperation for Carlos's attention, Diana fell down the stairs while pregnant. She was so emotionally devastated that she resorted to this extreme measure believing she would gain Carlos's attention. Instead of rushing to her side with concern, what action did Carlos take? He went horseback riding. It was an extremely insensitive action. Diana undoubtedly felt abandoned. Prince William arrived on the 1st of June, 1982. Diana was thrilled to welcome motherhood and, for a brief period, hope seemed to be on the horizon. However, the demands of royal life, combined with the emotional strain of her marriage, quickly overwhelmed her. She struggled with postpartum depression and the royal family was not particularly a source of help. Diana experienced unprecedented loneliness. In 1984, Diana discovered she was pregnant again, this time with Prince Harry. For a brief moment, it seemed her situation would improve. She experienced an improvement in her well-being and confidence knowing she was expecting another child. She refrained from informing Carlos immediately. The reason was that Carlos had explicitly expressed his desire to have a daughter. When Harry was born, Carlos's discontent was palpable, hitting Diana like a punch in the stomach, as she was already precariously struggling with her emotional state. Queen Elizabeth was apparently dissatisfied with Carlos's behavior, although she maintained a cordial relationship with Diana. With each passing year, Diana's psychological condition worsened. The burden of royal responsibilities, the constant demands of public life, and Carlos's coldness, she was exhausted. She used various methods to manage her anguish, including medications and sleeping aids, in an effort to alleviate the mental pain she endured. However, nothing had prepared her for the devastating revelation that Carlos had resumed his romance with Camilla. Instead of addressing the problem, Diana maintained her facade, preserving the impeccable royal image while her surroundings deteriorated. However, it became clear that Diana would not endure in silence indefinitely. A man burst into her existence, James Hewitt, her riding instructor. Diana sought refuge in Hewitt's company due to her need for love and affection. Undoubtedly, the media got wind of the allegations, and thus Diana's private life became tabloid material. She had no emotional connection with any member of the royal clan. Her relationship with Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, was rather cold. However, in 1988, an incident occurred during a ski trip in Switzerland that strengthened the bond between Diana and Sarah. A fatal avalanche trapped Carlos and Andrew. Both princes managed to escape, but Hugh Lindsay, their friend, tragically lost his life. The incident deeply disturbed Diana, and, for a brief time, she and Sarah found a mutual understanding in their shared fear for their husbands. However, the intimacy was fleeting. The avalanche event led to an investigation, once again focusing attention on Carlos. Their marriage, obviously in decline, seemed irreparable. Carlos' lack of emotional affection, along with the persistent chaos surrounding Camilla, left Diana more isolated. Despite these circumstances, Diana was not inclined to give up easily. She sought help for her bulimia, determined to regain control over her life. In a singular moment of exceptional bravery, she confronted Camilla directly in a meeting. However, that encounter did not alter the reality of their situation.